Wilderness Committee to talk about this Mount Polley tailings pond mine breach that happened, almost a week ago now, and we're looking at it, and the fallout continues, except for apparently the water is drinkable?
The surface water is likely not that toxic, and that's good news. But what the government and the company really need to be looking at is the mud, is the slurry that contains heavy metals like arsenic, selenium, zinc, and those metals and fish don't react very well with each other. And for the Wilderness Committee, one of the big concerns is does the company have enough insurance to be able to clean up this spill? That the company has about $15 million worth of insurance, but it's very likely that this spill will cost at least $200 million to clean up.
200 million
at least.
So how is it that you can have an insurance policy that is so low when?
Well, I think that's a good question, and that's something that the BC government needs to look at very, very closely. That we have 9 other metal mines in British Columbia that are operating. We have 10 coal mines. That these mines often come with tailings ponds. And again, when you're talking about a tailings pond, some people think, oh, it's a couple hundred feet across. The tailings pond at Mount Polley was 4 kilometers across.
Wow. So that's a lake.
It is a lake. It's a lake of toxicity. And then you had, what's really concerning is you had people that were closely associated with the project, whether it's former engineers, whether it's a former foreman, and they flagged concerns not only to the company, but also to the BC government. And they said this tailing pond is getting really big. And in fact, the foreman said it contained 5 times the amount of water that it was originally intended to contain.
And that it might have been insured for. 1/5 of that.
Yes, it's just, and that there was also what really concerned the Wilderness Committee is there was evidently a breach. The foreman said there was a breach last May, and that's when water comes over the top of the dam, and that can cause structural weakness. The government just said it was a high water incident, but we need to drill down and find out what actually happened, and we can do so by talking to the people that flagged concerns that were with the company.
Those are allegations. We should state that those are allegations that are unconfirmed at this point, but certainly lead to the question marks that got us here. Now, you said that there was insurance for a possible breach, but what about tailings pond? Are there bonds? Do they have to take care of these at some point?
Well, there are bonds, and that's for reclamation when the mine closes down and to return the mine as much as you can to what it looked like, the area looked like previously. But
is that even possible?
Well, no, let's face it, it's not possible. Okay. You can improve things, you can green things up, you can maybe put some trees back, but you're never going to return it to a pristine state. But one of the criticisms, and very legitimate criticisms, is the bonds. There's not enough money put down in the security bonds if you have an incident of this nature. And there is some concern that the security bonds wouldn't even apply to an incident of this nature. So you had a similar toxic spill in Tennessee several years ago, and it's about the same amount of slurry that went into their ecosystem and their rivers, and that's costing almost $1 billion to clean up.
So maybe the silver lining here, Gwen, is the fact that we're going to learn the lesson from something like this and put the proper safeguards in place.
Well, I hope that's absolutely what I'd expect the BC government to do, to make sure, for instance, that other tailings ponds that are in BC are safe, that we aren't going to have this incident repeat itself.
We thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Great perspective and a very busy, ongoing and flowing story. You can follow Gwen on Twitter and keep up to date on the Wilderness Society's or Wilderness Committee's view on the tailings pond issues at Mount Polley.